What is going on, everybody? Happy Thursday, and welcome to another great episode of Medical Sales Live. We got a good one today. We always have a good one, but today we have a very good one. And guess what, everybody? I think we fixed our AV problems. Have a new setup today. But of course, sometimes we're gonna have to be patient with the technology. So while I set up my presentation so that way I can project, go ahead and Jay Taylor, you crack me up when we're only as good as this tech thingy. Yeah, that's so true, Jay. That is absolutely true. So whether you're watching on Zoom, Twitter, YouTube, and of course LinkedIn, you know how we start the show. Go ahead and drop in the comments what city you're joining in from, and I'm going to get my presentation up. All right, let's see. All right, there we go. And man, beautiful. We got it working. Man, how exciting is that? I love it. Oh, look, we got comments. All right, look at that. The lighting's perfect. The iPad works. The stream is working well. Zoom is working. What a great day. Today is a great day for medical sales. It's a great day every day for medical sales, but especially today. So let's see. We got Chris Cosentino from Baltimore. All right. Hey, Chris. Welcome. Mark Curry from Kansas City. Fantastic. We got Janet from Los Angeles. All right. We got Jessica from Detroit. All right, Jessica. Hey, Jessica, welcome. Always welcome. Gabby from San Antonio, Texas. Jay coming in from Grand Rapids. All right, what's up, everybody? Okay, so the topic of today, okay, as I cue it up here, persuasive messaging. This is the one thing I forgot. It was almost perfect. Everybody. That's okay. Messaging for surgeon connections. All right, so let me cue that up real quick. So persuasive messaging for surgeon connections. Okay, why is this an important thing? Because we're using these channels to connect with people, right? And the whole point of this is to sell. But you can screw it up if you don't do it the right way, in my opinion, right? And so I'm going to walk you through what I believe is persuasive messaging, okay? And I'm going to walk you through this workflow, all right? So we're going to walk through this workflow. This is a very simple 7-day workflow, okay? And I'm not going to go into automations because there's only so much you can expect for a live stream show on a Thursday. So in terms of the automations and the more advanced versions of this, that's going to be for the people who are in the Medical Sales Network Effects program. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check the notes of the show, check the comments, and you're going to see 2 links. Link number 1 is watch the webinar, apply for the program, see if you get accepted, right? Link number 2 is if you are, and actually, I don't have a banner for this, got a capital sales deal, submit anonymously to dealrip.com. It's not perfect, everybody. Okay, if you got a capital sales deal and you want to get feedback on your deal, go ahead and go to dealrip.com, submit your deal. Again, it's going to be anonymous. We're going to do a live show where I invite some key capital sales leaders on. We're going to pull up your deal. We're going to frame it. We're not going to mention your company, your product, you, the city, nothing. It's going to be de-identified, but you're going to get the value of getting your deal ripped and in the most entertaining way. You're going to do it live, okay? So that's essentially what we're going to be doing. And now let's go ahead and jump into the presentation. Let's do the talk, right? Because that's what you guys are here for. Put that on the bottom. And let me make this bubble of mine a little bit smaller. There we go. That's much nicer. Way nicer. Oh, man, the myth, the legend, Douglas Runyon coming in from Detroit. Douglas has been killing it. I got to say, I've been really enjoying your content, Douglas, mainly because you do a great job covering, things about your technology and products. But that's like 10% of the time. The other 90%, you're doing such a nice job storytelling, sharing value as a professional with your network. And so, for doctors and medical professionals alike, a lot of us really benefit and love your content. So just, man, keep it up, man. If you're not following Douglas Runyon already, like, I highly recommend you connect with him. Go follow him. Okay. Now, on to the show. So for those who are on Zoom, I'm gonna take my camera off, but you should still be able to hear me. And then I'm going to share my screen. So if you guys can comment on Zoom, can you guys see the screen? I just need one person to comment. Do you see a slide that says persuasive messaging workflow? Let's see. And uh, let's see. Yes, yes. All right, good. We're money there. And now, of course, on LinkedIn, let's go ahead and get you guys piping on there. And of course, let me do it. I have to do an audio check. It's happened before where I was like talking and nothing was working. Let's see. Man, I love it. And you know what? What a difference just one extra light makes. I mean, you guys are seeing me in 4K. What more could you want today? Okay, let's get into it. All right, here we go. We are going to share a window. Nope. Okay, we're going to do this. And I gave people a heart attack probably or a seizure or both. Okay, persuasive messaging workflow. Let's talk about a couple of things, okay? The first thing is that why does a message need to be persuasive? Well, because the whole purpose of a message, okay? While yes, you're trying to establish a connection, um, you're trying to create some context and everything. You also want to persuade. What does persuasion mean? I just want to be very clear about this. Persuasion means somebody somehow has their behavior influenced into taking an action. Okay. If there's no action, then you're literally just wasting time. Okay. So you have to have a plan, right? If you don't prepare, if you fail to plan, right? Plan to fail, right? So this is a very simple framework, a very simple workflow. And the way I want you guys to think about this is that this is the bare minimum without the automations, without nothing, right? And my thing is you can use some automation. I've used it, but the higher dollar amount of your deal, the more you need to take time not automating it. That's just my opinion. And again, I'll say the people who are in the software world and SaaS, a lot of them would disagree with me and they're like, oh no, you can automate all these things, etc. Yeah, kind of, except that surgeons are very, very different from selling to a Fortune 500, like, VP of marketing or something. And the way they're different is that surgeons are pretty domineering, right? They have a very strong personality. They're already used to everybody personalizing things to them, really catering to them. And so if they feel like they're just being treated like a bunch of other people, they really dislike that. And they will very publicly humiliate you and your company. So you just don't want to be on the receiving end on that. So again, the purpose of social media, yes, there is a point where scale comes into play. But if you are a startup that has not raised past a series B or C and you don't have more than even 50 customers or 100 customers, depending on what you sell, the word scale needs to be out of your vocabulary. Let's just start there. Okay? Because let's say, and this is a big thing because I have a lot of people who watch the show who are in startups. Let's just say that you do some automated messaging, whatever, right? And you get 100 demo requests, your company might break. Okay. Like you have to ask yourself, do we have enough salespeople to do that many demos? Do we have enough product to service? Right? You have to ask these questions because the dumb thing, and let me rephrase the way I'm saying this. The stupid thing, the moronic thing that I always hear, because a CEO, this is usually coming from the CEO. No logical marketing or salesperson thinks like this. It's a CEO is like, no, let's just get all these requests and these orders and everything and these demos. But then meanwhile, in that process, you're going to deliver terrible customer service. You're going to deliver a terrible experience for the customer, and you're not going to get a customer, right? So, anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox from there. Okay, here's let's start here. Let's start with what not to do. Don't do this nonsense. Establish a connection on LinkedIn, send a LinkedIn message, cold email, cold call, meeting booked, or follow-ups. I don't know why. Like, this is when I Googled, because I was curious. When I Googled um, uh, workflow, messaging workflows, this is the graphic. This is like the top hit. This one and a few others. Sorry to the company who came up with, but this is nonsense. This kind of stuff worked in like 2015. LinkedIn, send a message, cold email, cold call. And I guarantee you somebody is going to be stupid enough to either watch this live or comment in the recording, "Oh, but my company does this and we get results." Well, yeah, maybe you do get results, but I would say is consider how much more results could you be getting if you did a more sophisticated approach. Here's the problem with this. This is what teenagers are doing. Like some schmucks out of college undergrads, new salespeople. Like, think about this as a surgeon. They're getting this kind of workflow at minimum 3 times a week. 3 times a week. So that's 3 times a week. How many times is that a month? 12 times a month. If anything annoys me 12 times, like, this is why, as a salesperson, right? People get often wonder why. Like, why is the front office so mean to salespeople? Why is the surgeon so mean to salespeople? It's because the moment they know that you're in sales, you get put into the same bucket as everybody else. So a lot of the things that are happening is not necessarily your fault. It's because all these other companies are doing this kind of crap. So the framework I'm going to walk you through not only will be more effective for you, you're going to set yourself in a different class. You'll be treated differently. And the best part about this, all these things I've done. I've done this in the past many, many, many times. And I'm going to show you guys the actual workflow I've used in the past, actually at a software company. But of course, I've hidden the name of the physician. Okay. So here's your persuasive messaging workflow for medical sales. This is super simple. I want to be really straightforward about this. And again, the people who are in my program, they're kind of like part of a secret society. What you might see is like a simple workflow. The people who are in my program, and I can see it in the chat, actually, some people already private. See, I love this. Private messaging me their thoughts. Yep, Jackie, you're absolutely right. Is that there's details within here that people in the program, you'll be able to fill in. Okay. So day number 1, we're going to start with some context. That's the first day you connect. Day number 2, provide something of value. Day number 5, provide something of value. Day number 7, value adding meeting. Okay. I'm going to walk through this, and then I'm going to expand a little bit more on this. And by the way, I wonder if I can. I'm looking at this on my Zoom. Let's see. Nope, we're good. Yeah, we're good to go. Okay. So let's start with the day 1. This is a very simple message. You get connected. Hi, doctor, whatever their name is. Hey, great to connect. Reason you connected. Focus on making them proud. Now, here's where the persuasion comes in. Okay. The persuasion comes in because one is you're personalizing it, but not to this nonsense of let me tell you and I can't help it. I'm sorry, everybody. This is just my personality. I'm an intense guy. I can't help but bring this fire to the stupidity that I continue to see, not just in our industry, in my inbox. Hey, Dr. So-and-so, or hey, Omar, I'm just connecting because I see that we have a lot of mutual friend connections in common. Man, I got 30,000 followers. Of course, you got people in common. But even so, I hate that. If you're going to connect with somebody because you have somebody in common, mention it. Like, hey, I saw your past classmate of so and so. Like, don't do this thing of like you're connected with somebody. The reason why you want to make this personalized and focus on something that makes them proud is because immediately in your first interaction, and this is part of persuasion, is eliciting a little bit of dopamine, the love drug, the hormone that makes you feel good, right? You want to associate you, the salesperson, with good feelings, right? You want to do that from the get go versus you send a message like, hey, great to connect. Here's what I do, blah, blah, blah. Can I get a meeting? You've already associated yourself with being an annoying, pain in the butt person. Okay. I would like to use more colorful language, but this is, we're still this is the daytime show, so I can't. Okay. So some things that would make the doctor proud. Okay. Again, we're focusing on making them proud. Something like, hey, I read the last couple of publications and by the way, do not automate this, please. Like, please listen to me when I say this, because it's going to screw up one time and it's not going to look good on you. Go and just take a few minutes. Go read some of the publications. Hey, I read your last publications. Hey, um, I read the last couple LinkedIn posts you made on opioid sparing surgery, on this, that. Like, make it so that they're like, oh, this is a real person I'm talking to. Because guess what? We're in 2022. People are very well aware of automations, because it's not just on LinkedIn. People are getting quote unquote personalized automations to their email inbox. They're getting it to their text message. They're getting it everywhere. So the goal in sales and marketing is how to stand out and differentiate yourself. Here it is. Is this going to take you a little bit more time? Yes, but guess what? It's worth it because your conversions will be higher. At the end of the day, if the answer is the conversion for the thing I want will be higher, just do it. It's very simple. Okay. That's line number one. Hey, Dr. Smith, it's great to connect. I wanted to connect with you because I had read up, your last couple of publications on minimally invasive surgery, and I really enjoyed it. I checked out some of your LinkedIn posts. I really enjoyed it. Whatever the reason is, like, just try to do something that'll make them proud. And look, for those of people who are just so eager to automate everything, that's okay. Let me tell you something you can put for the automations. Hey, Dr. Smith, great to connect with you. You actually came up in my search when I filtered for surgeons who are considered thought leaders in their space. It's really generic, but you know what? At least it makes them feel good, right? So there you go. All right, next. Second sentence. I like to post, or I like to create content, things that are interesting plus related to the problem you solve. For example, great to connect with you. I really enjoy your content. I like to share content that is focused on self-development, persuasion, and optimizing a private practice's revenue, or minimally invasive surgery with robotics, or AI in surgery. And again, here's the key. You're not talking about the product you have. You're not talking about the company you're with. This is you. You're productizing yourself. And it's like, hey, here's some interesting things I like to post about. And then you just finish it very simply. I hope you'll enjoy my content, something, right? It's just like, hey, I connected with you for these reasons. Here's what you can expect from me, and then end it. This is kind of like a fake ending. Hope you have a great week. Because if you ended without some very clear ending, sometimes a person's like, do I respond to this? Just end it. Do this. And again, what's unique about this framework is that nobody does this. Most surgeons who get a message, they're going to open it. It's like, yeah, I know what it's going to be. They're going to tell me about their company. They're going to ask for a meeting. It's like, oh, they're not telling me about their company. Oh, they didn't ask for a meeting. Oh, and they just ended the message. I don't need to do anything. This is great. That's what you want to focus on, because at the end of this is going to take them less than 10 seconds to read. And within those 10 seconds, you've shared something interesting about yourself in terms of the content you're going to post. You've made them feel really good. And if you do a good job of this, what I often see is that when I send these messages out, that physician will click and go to my profile, which, again, for those of you, if you're in my program, if you've updated your profile, this is where your profile funnel comes into mind, right? They read your headline, which should be related to the problem that you solve. Then they see some of your feature posts. Like, a lot of times, if you optimize your profile for the right things, they might just convert right then and there, right? So, for example, I'm going to use, I'm going to use Mark Moore. Mark is a CIO over at Surgeries. I'm going to use him because he actually asked a really good question. He kind of inspired this topic today. So for Surgeries, they are a software tool that's used to make sure that cases are never canceled. Right? They're like Calendly on steroids, but for surgeons. Right? It's a really interesting product. So when Mark sends a message, he could say something like, "Hey, Dr. Smith, it's great to connect. I wanted to connect with you because I'm trying to build my network with surgeons um, who are early adopters of technology, and then you came up in my LinkedIn search. I like to post things about uh, leadership, jujitsu, and ways that surgeons can optimize their revenue by eliminating canceled surgeries." So he's already kind of stated like the problem he solves, right? And if that's of interest, they're gonna gravitate to that. Hey, hope you enjoy my content. Hope you have a great week. If the surgeon, if Mark does a good job structuring this message, the surgeon will very likely, because there's no action required, more often than not, the surgeon will have to be curious to at least click and go look at Mark's profile, right? If they go to the Mark's profile, they'll see maybe a banner that says like, imagine a world where you never have a canceled case ever again. If that's a pain point that person has, that's going to get their attention. Again, for persuasion, you get attention, right? If they dive deeper in the profile, like there's going to be more ways for them to convert. So, anyways, let me kind of move forward here, and let me do a quick check on the comments. Okay, we're good on the comments. All right. Next one, day 2. Okay, and so this is a real scenario. These are screenshots from a past physician that I've engaged. Okay, so and let me see if I can expand this. There we go. Okay, so day 2, after I connect with somebody, and usually I tell them what I do, and what to expect from me. Day 2 is like, hey, and this was actually this was automated. Okay, this is where it's okay to automate things. First time, manual. Second time, automation. It's like, hey, Dr. So-and-so, want to personally invite you to this really interesting TMS webinar. So that TMS was related to what this guy's into. It's like, you can RSVP on this. We'll send the recording out to those who missed, but you have to make sure to register. So I'm getting this guy in our funnel. And this doesn't happen all the time, but look, the guy responds. He's like, hey, let's see exactly what he says. He says like, hey, thanks, Omar. I will be attending. Perfect. I got engagement, right? The first message I sent him, there was no need to him to respond. Didn't. Second time, it's like, man, this guy's not asking anything for me. He's literally providing value. Okay. Now let's go to this one. So again, as a reminder, day 1, context. Why am I connecting with you? What can you expect from me? Day 2, value. Hey, here's this webinar. Here's this thing. Here's something that you might be interested in, right? What can you guess? And I give them a break, by the way. So if this is happening on a Monday, this thing's happening on a Tuesday, day 5, this is happening on a Friday. Okay? So on day 5, I add more value. I'm like, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I hope you're well. I really been enjoying your posts as it keeps me updated with TMS, which is, by the way, true. You don't want to automate this because, again, if the person posts, great, you made them feel good. But if, God forbid, this goes out to some people who haven't posted in the last 30 days, right? Maybe they do post, but they haven't posted anything in 30 days. They might read this and be like, what are they talking about? I haven't posted anything, right? You do not want to look like you're lying. It just feels fake, right? Imagine, for you, like, I don't know if you guys can remember the day that I found out about like personalized automation. Like, I remember I got a message from somebody, and at first I thought it was like real, and I felt good, but then I realized it wasn't, and I felt cheated, and it really pissed me off, actually. All right, so don't do that with these physicians. Okay, so I provided this article. Okay, 3 causes of TMS claim denials and how to prevent them in 2021. Has nothing, I have not mentioned my company, nothing. Of course, now here's the key. You don't have to do the talking for your company, but look, send them a link to an article on your company's page. And if you have any decent marketing, this is going to be tagged. They're going to get remarketed. Let's say you work at a company like most medical salespeople, where your company does absolute garbage marketing. Then don't worry about sending them to your company website. Just go grab articles. And look, lo and behold, here he is. And this does not happen all the time. I just want to be clear. This is not common. But not only did the guy respond, he's like, "Hey, thank you, Omar. This is very helpful. I'm back in full swing of things at work next week after this conference. I'll be interested in checking in more on what you guys do. If you're ever in the area, feel free to swing by." Like, you couldn't ask for something better. The physician literally is not only saying, "Hey, I'm interested in what you guys do," but like, "Hey, if you're in the area," and I was in California, this guy was down in Texas. He's like, "Swing by." This doesn't happen all the time. But again, when you create such a positive, and the barrier is low, my friends, when you create such a positive experience, just in the message, just in the messaging, that's a product, my friends. That very easily differentiates you. And the people who are engaged with you say, "Yeah, you know what? I'd love to," because they know you're a salesperson. And so, but if you make it an enjoyable experience, they're willing to go and have a meeting with you, right? And again, in between here, I'm not just having a static LinkedIn page. Every other day, like, I'm at least posting something, I'm engaging. So like, this guy's seeing me provide value on LinkedIn. There's social proof involved, right? So think about like this. In the news feed, where you can see posts and comments, think about that as social proof, and authority bias, right? Social proof because there's people liking my posts. There's authority bias because, um, I'm speaking on certain topics. In here, there are other biases going on, like the liking effect, right? All right. Now, the last thing, okay, here we are, is on day 7, value adding meeting, okay? I want to be clear about what that means. When you ask for a meeting, it's not enough to just say, "Hey, I'd love to have a meeting to demo you my product." Like, nobody wants to waste time doing that. Like, and especially surgeons and doctors, they're getting busier. Time is being so crunched. And so what you have to consider is, how do you make this meeting as valuable as possible? This is how. And again, what I recommend, take a look at your demo, all right? And make it valuable. Look. So, if you've been stressed out of billing, you're going to want to read this. And this guy became a customer later on, by the way, but he became a customer. I mentioned the company I work for. Look, 2 sentences. Tech company started by a Stanford physician. Private practices partner with us to use intelligent automation data to increase revenue. I'm not talking about our dashboards or this or that. It's literally like, "Hey, here's who we help and here's how we help them." That's it. This is not the place to, show up and throw up your features. Then here's the value. I'm like, "We are doing a billing and revenue analysis, which is normally $5,000 free, but for a limited time." Okay. Here's why this is persuasive. So first of all, billing and revenue analysis. This is analysis of things that have pain involved. Either, again, the company I worked for was a software company that dealt billing. So either they're like pissed off of their billing, or they're like, "Yeah, I feel like I could be making more money." And again, here's the context. You always have to put a value for it. Normally this is $5,000. How do we come up with this number? You can do it one of two ways. A, you can literally make this number up, or B, the better way is actually figure out how much time does it cost our team, like, per hour? Like, what do they make per year? Divide that out. We came up with this, like, based on the working hours, that meeting is $5,000, and we did it for limited time. You have to create, this is scarcity bias. So it's like limited time that's going to get them to take action. And then context, again, like, the thing is, always ask yourself, so what? So what? Well, we did this for a Pinkling. We found $300,000 in hidden revenue due to billing errors. It's a great report to help your staff. Do you want to learn more? That's it. It's very, very clear. And this is the older message. What I ended up doing is at the end is like to make to make it easy, you can just let me know who to schedule time with in your office, or you can just click this link and schedule it directly yourself. And I had the meeting link there ready to go, done. Okay, that is persuasive messaging. Okay, that is a persuasive messaging framework. So let's just roll through this really quickly. Okay, you have day one, you're going to provide context. Who am I? Why am I connecting with you? What you can expect with me. Day two, provide value. I don't care what it is. It could be some article that's not even on your company website. Just find something that based on them would be valuable. Okay. Day five, provide something else that's valuable. And again, take some time. Like, look, like if you're talking to Dr. Scott Sigmund, the first thing you find on Dr. Sigmund's profile on LinkedIn and everything about him online is like he's really big into opioid sparing surgery. So go try and find something on opioid sparing surgery that came up in the last week or two or month or something, and try and share it with him. Okay. And then finally, after just doing this twice, I try to make this as simple as possible. Value added meeting. Try and come up with a demo, with a meeting where you would be stupid not to say, yeah, I'd love to do that. Right. Um, so let me stop there. I'm gonna stop sharing. Let's come back. Let's get into the questions actually. Because I know we have some questions. I'm gonna not leave studio. I almost clicked that one. Okay. So, oh, we got some questions already. Carl Huff, great stuff, and real world in these crazy topsy turvy time. Yes, definitely topsy turvy. My good friend Daigo Tanaka, do you send value added meeting invitation to everyone, or do you do day 7 after making sure they like the day 1, 2, and 5 engagements? It's a great question. Um, so I'm in a different position than most. I'm not doing this right now at scale. But what I would say, Daigo, is it depends on what you're selling. So if you are, let's say your goal is to get somebody into an email list, right? And then through the emails, you can nurture them into a deal, right? Then what I would do is it's totally okay to use some automations, right? And sometimes I would say like you calling the automation out actually makes it more persuasive, in my opinion. Like for example, it's you connect with somebody, "Hey, thank you so much for accepting my connection request. I please excuse the automated message just because I have so many people that I'm trying to keep up with and it's tough. But if you're interested in email marketing, I have this great newsletter. I would love for you to sign up. Here it is." Then, or you can even say, "Hey, great to connect with you just to make it more efficient for me so that I can provide value at scale. Because you connect with me, you can expect to get 3 messages, automated messages from me, but they're all going to have really value, some of my favorite content on whatever problem you solve, right?" So that way you're letting them know, and you're almost kind of asking permission, like, "Hey, um, great to connect. For the next week, I'm going to send you just 3 messages, and that's it." Right? That's what I would say. A lot of times people just do this without thinking. You know, Great question, Daigo. Let me come back to Zoom and let's see. So Mark has a question. What would you do after day 7 and no reply? Oh, that's a great question. Let me bring that up on the banner here. Okay, so Mark. All right, so Mark Moore. Mark's question. What do you do after day 7 and no reply? So in the event that, let's say that, because and there's a lot of things that could be happening. It could be they're on vacation. It could be that they've just been busy. It could be that they're just, LinkedIn messaging is not that great. I mean, look, I use LinkedIn every day because I run my business off of it. But like, there's a lot of times I get so many missed LinkedIn messages, I lose track. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, and so for that, I'm gonna warn you guys right now. I'm going to do this. It's not going to be pretty. Okay. Um, so I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to walk you through the second framework. It's not, I don't want to call it a second framework, but I'm going to share with you what would I do in day 7 if they don't reply. Okay. Okay. So, so post 7 days. Okay. Here's how my biggest thing is, how do you optimize the fact that they're going to reply? If you go back to this right here, what I would say is, on one side you have, let's just use blue. This would be LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. I would I would consider using email throughout this, right? Or at the very least right here. And so if you want, you can focus these days right here all on LinkedIn, but then when you actually go to the call to action, what I would recommend is using both LinkedIn and email. Okay? And you can get their personal email off of their contact info, right? So for example, let's exit out of this. Let's go into LinkedIn. Okay? So what I would do, a lot of people don't know this. We're going to go to, that's why you want to get a first connection. I always recommend, like, Sales Navigator is cool, but make sure that the person becomes your first connection, because then you can click these little dots right here. You click contact info, and there you have it. You have all this info. Okay. And by the way, yes, for those of you who haven't guessed it, this is my father, and I changed the information, right? Um, but then the thing is that most people sign up for LinkedIn with a personal email, right? And so then that's how I optimize that. Now, at the end of the day, um, and let me come back again. At the end of the day, what I would say, Mark, is that if if you're not converting somebody, if you're not yeah, so if you're not converting somebody after the 7th day, what I would say is, it's one of two things. It's usually a combo. Number one, your targeting is not good. You're targeting the wrong people. Or number two, your offer is just not strong enough, right? And it could be a combination of both. The other thing is that, like, no matter how strong your offer is, the pain that other person is experiencing has to be so strong that they take action. Like, that's the one thing I try and recommend. I tell people is that, and it's hard, right? It's hard because that's why marketing exists, right? The whole point of marketing, when you think about it, is making sure to stay in front of somebody with the solution you have to somebody's problem, because the day that they have that problem, they use your solution. This is the reason why Coca-Cola is a multi-billion-dollar company. They have a Coca-Cola machine on every single corner, right? Or let's use Starbucks. Starbucks is a great example. There's a Starbucks literally on every corner, like, especially here in California. Why? Because the moment that you're like, I need something refreshing, oh, I need a little caffeine or something, it's like, oh, Starbucks is right there. Let me just go to Starbucks, right? They want to be front of mind, at all points, right? That's why they even pay for, like, on Waze. If you're driving, you would see the Waze bring it up. Um. So the next question. All right. So Mark, let me. So Mark's next. We got next question here. And for those of you who are watching on LinkedIn and YouTube, feel free to leave a question or comment. All right. So the question is, how would you actually track the workflow if not using automation? Would you simply write down everyone you connect with each day on a Google Sheet to track? You could hypothetically do that. It'll drive you nuts. My here's my thing is that, and this is how I think about startups. There's a point when you scale, and then there's a point where you just tactically need to try things, you know, and see what ends up being the result. You can always go back and write down names, etc. But what I would recommend is tracking the numbers. So, for example, it's just like running a science experiment. The details of who is not important, but the quantitative details are important. So, what I would recommend is, and actually, let's I'm not gonna go back to the whiteboard. Just think of it like this. On a Monday, you say, "Hey, I'm going to use I'm going to use this hour, and I'm going to connect with uh 10 or 20 surgeons, right? And then see what my conversion is there, right?" So, if you're not getting somebody, if 1 out of 10 connect with you, it could be that, like, they're not online yet, whatever, right? But the first thing is, like, can you optimize for how often somebody's connecting with you, right? That's problem number 1 you have to solve. Then problem number 2 is, like, okay, after I send them a message, you know, am I able to, like, move them forward? At the end of the day, that's how I would do it. And you want to run these as tests, over course of, let's say, minimum 1 or 2 weeks. Now, here's where somebody would argue with me. It's a very fair argument, which is to say, well, an N of 50 or 100 is a lot more of a good pool to work with than an N of 10, right? I agree. Except he got only one shot. This is what makes this hard. This is why there's a lot of opportunity in this. It's hard for these reasons because, yeah, you can send out to 100 surgeons, but that might have been your one shot with them. You see what I mean? So you kind of want to batch things together. And again, there's so much that can be done without having to experiment. You don't need to experiment conversions to say, yeah, you know what? It should be really clear what I do for a living on my headline. I should have a nice photo that actually makes me look like an approachable person, right? There's too many people who have, like, a black and white photo. They look like the grim reaper, and they're not smiling in it. It's not a friendly photo, whether you're a man or a woman, you know? So you try your best to optimize for these things, right? And what I would say also to people, because there's a lot of young reps who watch this and they overthink these things. Albert Einstein came up with a theory of relativity and all these amazing things, not running experiments. He literally sat down and thought through these things and put pen to paper. So a lot of the stuff you just have to sit down and really do your best to think about what would a surgeon respond to. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, talk to some of your customers, right? Talk to some, and if you don't have any customers, go connect with a few surgeons, engage with their content, and be like, "Hey, Doctor So and So, trying to get better about just engaging with surgeons. Feel free to reply here in the messenger, or if you want to give me a call, here's my cell phone. But um, what's the most valuable content that brings you back to LinkedIn? Like, what are some things you're interested in? What do you think some other surgeons? If you just ask questions, you'll get much better answers, right? So that's what I would recommend. Okay. Let's see. So great question, Mark. Mark is on it. Okay, let's get to some questions now. Um and I think this is from I'm gonna roll through these questions actually, and actually I'm going to queue them up on banners. That's, you know what, that was the one thing I forgot to do today. Is queuing them up on the banners, but that's okay. We'll scroll through this. Um okay. Let's see. And while I'm posting these questions, we almost got them all. Oh, today was a busy day. If you have a question or you have a comment, uh, go ahead and drop it. Drop it like it's hot. Okay. We got great questions today. Man, I love it. See, this is, a lot of people think that it has to be one person. Okay. Fantastic. Jessica. All right. Is Jessica on the call today? Let me take a look. Hopefully she is. Yes, she is. Okay. All right. Let's just roll through these real quick. Okay. So, first question, and let me highlight this banner to make it a little bit make it pop, We like it. No, not that. There we go. That looks pretty good. No, there we go. The bubble. We'll go with the bubble today. Okay. Um, so the question, and for those who are on Zoom, you're not seeing all the colors, so I apologize, but I'm doing my best here. And actually, you know what? I can share my screen. That might help. You know what? There we go. Okay. So for those in Zoom, it's like you guys are behind the scenes now with me. Okay. So do you connect with everyone on LinkedIn or just possible clients? Great question. I connect with everyone, right? And here's the reason why. If you connect with only the people you're trying to sell to, you're limiting the network effects that you can gain. Again, what is a network effect? A network effect is something that everybody uses and gets better the more people, the more that they use it and the more people that are involved, right? And so for me, the network effect of my content today is a lot more powerful and stronger because I have a larger network to engage with than it was a year ago, right? And so what you want to ask yourself is like, look, if I have a limited market of 5 people I'm trying to influence, persuade, how can I do that? One of them is social proof. And so if you only connected with those 5 people and every time you post is just like you only have 5 connections, think of how difficult that is for you to get traction with them versus some of those people, they might be connected with other surgeons or other people across the world or the country. And so you want to optimize the fact that maybe they open their LinkedIn and on their newsfeed, they're not going to see that content from you, but then it pops up later because somebody from your network who's a mutual shared connection engaged with it, right? This is how you optimize just staying in front of them, like staying in front of mind. This is why if you think about medical sales, why in medical sales, even pre-pandemic, why do they always want you to be in the hospital, right? If you talk to old school med reps, their thing was like you lived in the hospital, you hung out in the cafeteria, you hung out in the physician's lab. Why? It goes back to the same principle I just mentioned about Starbucks. You want to be front of mind, so that way you're always front of mind, top of mind for the business, and then even especially when it's the pain. When a surgeon has pain, it's like that one rep is always there. It's like, let me ask that rep, hey, can you solve this problem for me? Right. That's why you want to do that. Okay. Let's see. We got a comment. I'm going to show you my document to show you my document camera setup in our meeting. Oh yeah, Daigo, I'm looking forward to that, man. Daigo Tanaka is fantastic. He's gonna be he's gonna be the top streamer in Japan. Watch. All right. Next, regarding the LinkedIn banner, do you like keeping one banner at all times or maybe switching out if promoting a webinar? Any thoughts on adding a countdown time widget to the banner for a webinar? Man, I'll tell you. So the answer is yes. I change my banner out all the time, right? Not as much recently, but like earlier in the year, I was promoting my career accelerator program, right? So my banner is optimized for that. If if I don't know if there's an automation. I don't think there's an automation to change out your LinkedIn banner. There might be. I don't think so. But if you're gonna do that manually and every day and count it down, man, more power to you. What I would say is that if you're going to go through that much trouble, might as well take that same banner in Canva and do a create a LinkedIn post to mention one. So every day, like let's say 7 days out of the webinar, it posts like the webinar, the name, the time, all these things, a link to sign up, and like 7 days, 6 days, and like and count it down. Now, here's the one thing I would comment on about the webinars. And this is based on 24, which is a publicly traded webinar company. And they have more data than I have, obviously. The majority, like when I say majority, I think it's something like 70% of webinar registrations happen within 72 hours of the webinar. Okay. And the reason why is just like, it's just more interesting and it's more front of mind. Right. And that's why webinars are such an interesting thing, because a lot of times companies, they want to promote a webinar over a month out. I'm like, terrible idea. So you're going to get all these people registered and they're just not going to even know. They're going to like, it's just not a good idea. That's why I think the ideal time period for promoting a webinar is right around like 2 weeks out, believe it or not. If it's a big webinar, I don't know, you got Mark Cuban or some really big name, that's when you can kind of like promote it a little bit farther out. But again, it depends on your goals, right? And I think there was a follow up to that. Let me see here. No, okay, no, I'm good on that. Okay, great question. All right, next question. If I'm managing other LinkedIn accounts, would it make sense to go over different customer profile? For example, for my LinkedIn accounts, I'm targeting surgeons, and I think the other part of the question was, uh, let's see. I can't find that. Okay, so the answer is yes. I would recommend that. Um, like okay, this is a question about frequency, right? So if let's say you're trying to get one surgeon, does it help if like you have the same automation for the surgeon, somebody else has that? Yes, but it needs to be spread out, right? And again, what I would recommend is, you know, there is a point where you can over engineer some of these things, right? Because what ends up happening, and the reason why I say this is that that's why a lot of sales and marketing, it is part science, part art, right? The scientific part is you should have some kind of a hypothesis as to, okay, we're going to run this kind of strategy. This is how many people we're going to target. This is what we're going to do, and then we're going to see the results of it, right? There's that part. The artistic part, though, is kind of like things that you can't manage or measure, right? So, for example, if you ran this one campaign and somebody else runs the exact same campaign, you cannot compare those two things because it's not the same person, it's not the same profile. Even if you have everything the same, right? But one person has one name, somebody has another name. One's a man, one's a woman. Like there's all kinds of variables you cannot control for. So that's why the best marketers take the data as a signal and not like the be all end all conclusion, right? That's the one thing that I would recommend. I hope that answers the question. For the person who asked me this question, if you want, feel free to raise your hand on the Zoom and I'll bring you on live, because we got just two more questions. So I will have a little bit of time left. Okay. Next question. These are the next ones from a new member. I think it's Jessica. Thank you, Jessica, for the questions. So, how much of your content is geared towards surgeons and end users versus how much has hospital decision makers and execs as its target audience? It really depends. It really, really depends. Um, it depends on what you sell. What I would say is sometimes what's helpful, because if your goal, remember, the goal is always just to get attention, be front of mind, so that when you have a call to action, your conversion is going to be higher. And what I mean by that is if you become a person of interest, you're front of mind, people know your name, and then you send them a message saying, hey, I would really love to meet with you and talk with you, your chances of that meeting happening go up because they find you interesting, they know who you are, right? There is certain content that can be applied no matter what. So, for example, Surgeons lead their own team. Hospital decision makers lead their own team. You can create content, let's say, around leadership. So let's say you take an article, and here's a perfect example. I use MIT Technology Reviews, Harvard Business Review, whatever flavor magazine you love. Take a leadership article, summarize it, and your headline should be like, um, surgeons can learn these 3 things from this Harvard Business Review article on lean management. Post that. Use surgical hashtags and everything. Wait 1 day. The next day, literally the next day, you can take the exact same post you made, everything, and just change surgeons to hospital CEOs, change your hashtags, post that, right? And again, what you don't, and I a lot of people are not going to like to hear this, but it's very difficult to just measure like certain pieces of marketing and how it has an effect on something like attribution, right? And the reason why I say this is that human beings are not like, we're not machines technically. We're these decisions are a lot more persuasive. So for example, if there's a video that I posted actually a few weeks ago. That week I got some sales literally out of that video. Did that video influence those sales? Or was it that each one of those people, like at that time, they were dealing with a certain pain and problem, and I literally got lucky based on the time I posted, right? So you really have to ask yourself these questions, be very, very clear about it. As marketers, and I say this because I know this is how marketing people are. Salespeople don't care. Salespeople just do anything to try and make sure it works. We really like to point to the one thing, be like, yeah, this thing resulted in this. It's just more complicated than that, right? Even in my own funnel, and I measure everything. If you looked at it, a lot of I would say the revenue, 90% of it, the attribution, and I need to give a shout out here to my good friend Chris Walker, who is the founder at Refine Labs, and he's really the one who's pioneered and educated the market on this about attribution and dark social, right? Um, 90% of my revenues shows that it's coming from LinkedIn. But then when you look at the attribution of self-reported, meaning when I talk to somebody or when they submit a request to connect with me, or not to connect, to have a meeting with me, and I ask, how did you hear about me? Man, the answers are all over the place. A lot of it's LinkedIn, but a lot of times it's like, I heard you on this podcast, saw you speak at this conference, right? All these things I cannot track, right? And so the best thing that I would tell you, Jessica, is like, be very patient. And remember, this is about your influence over time and just showing up. So a lot of times, like what you post this week, I mean, it's going to last only for a week or two at maximum, right? So this is about an ongoing thing. There's like no arrival point for this stuff. Okay. All right. Great questions. Next, and this is my last question. So I'll open it up to just questions on the floor of the comment section and also on my Zoom if anybody wants to raise their hand. What is the best way to leverage content coming from our company profile and best ways to ensure the content we put out is an actual value add? Okay. I love this question. Okay. So, the best way to leverage content coming out from your company profile is not to leverage it. And the reason why I say that is that LinkedIn reduces your reach by just resharing company content. And it's algorithmically very easy for them to do that because look, Johnny or Jessica or whoever works at XYZ Medical. XYZ Medical puts out this piece of content. Johnny and Jessica both share XYZ Medical's post. The algorithm is very clear. It's like, oh, Johnny and Jessica work at this company. This company put out this post. They just reshared this content. They will reduce. That's why when you see people resharing company posts, with the exception of like the CEO's reshare always gets a lot of engagement, right? Because the CEO, they have CEO magic. Everybody else is like 1 or 2 likes. And the reason why is that, think of it like this as a user. If you're a LinkedIn user and every time you open your app and you logged in, you scroll, and on average, you're going to see 20 posts. Of those 20 posts, 5 of them are a reshare of a company post. You would not log into LinkedIn. You'd be like, why am I logging in? It's just like propaganda. So LinkedIn wants to limit that. Now, what you can do, and this is a much smarter way to do it. Your company posts something. Man, I thought the digital the iPad would be helpful for my presentations. I should really just bring back the whiteboard, and just mark this up. Um the company the company's post, let's say it's an image or video, download that file, take the company copy, and you just post it yourself instead of resharing it. Resharing is helpful, but like, you know, only so much. Now, the second part of your question is a more important one, which is um, how do you ensure that the content you put out is an actual value add? There's a few ways to measure that. Number one, the most obvious one is like the engagement. Like, do you see people liking it and commenting on the post? Right, that's the number one thing that I would say. And the second thing is like ask your customers. A lot of times when you post stuff, just because you get very little engagement, that doesn't mean it's not valuable. Distribution is a very difficult thing in this world. People pay billions of dollars for distribution, right? That's why influencers make a lot of money. That's why these social channels. I mean, look, Google's a trillion-dollar company. Aside from data, what do? It's distribution of a company's ads, right? To Google AdWords, right? So distribution is a big thing. So the most important thing in terms of the content, ask your customers. Like, look, and maybe this is actually let me jump over. I'm gonna share my screen for a second, but I'm gonna show you. Here we go. So this is a company who I used to work for. Okay. Um, Let me see. Oh, I can do Chrome tab. Okay. So there we go. So this is Gentem. If you look at their website, they're all on revenue cycle management. Okay, private practice growth insights. When you look, the last few webinars they've been doing is like more focused on revenue cycle management. But if you also look at the other content, what do we have here? Financial foundations for private practice owners, managing staff turnover, how your front office can make or break you, entrepreneurship, franchise model for physicians, smart strategies for building a successful clinical practice, um, how to get more points through your blog, top non-clinical income streams, patient marketing, how to build a multi-million dollar practice, you know. And so the reason why I share this, right, is because the majority of those things have nothing to do with what that company sells, but these are all topics of interest for the end user. That's why you have to talk to your customers, because they're going to tell you, like, think about it like this. When you ask a customer, hey, what kind of content you're interested in, the 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 real message there is what gets your attention. And so you should constantly, like, look, and again, I'm a stickler for these things, but the companies need to really level up their game. If you're a medical rep, so Jessica, I know you're a med rep. When you go into the office, okay, to visit your doctors, okay, look at the coffee table. What magazines do they put out for their patients? A lot of times they just pick random ones, but sometimes you can tell something from there. Sometimes they'll have medical magazines there. When you go back to speak to the doctor, look on their tables in their desk. What are they reading? Ask them, hey doctor, just out of curiosity, when you're like, not in surgery and everything, you want to pass time, where do you spend your time? Oh, I spend it on Instagram. Oh, I spend it on Twitter. What kind of what do you follow? And you don't even have to ask them. Go look them up on Twitter and Instagram and go see what um handles they're following, right? If you ask them like, hey, what are the topics you're really interested in knowing? Like, your customers will actually tell you, right? So I can't emphasize it enough. Talk to your customers, like literally ask them. They hold the keys to the kingdom. I think that what I often see, and this is really specific to the SaaS world, is that so many people are focused on just kind of the next deal that they don't spend time just tapping into their current pool of customers to optimize these things. So, like, again, there's a lot of talk about automation, and I love that because it shows that people are taking this serious and they want to scale. But you can save yourself a lot of headache and lost opportunities if you just do the research ahead of time. This is like sharpening the axe. Talk to your customers, figure out what are they interested in. Don't just throw crap against the wall, right? Because that might be your one chance. Your one chance to get that person to connect with you and get a meeting with them, right? And so you want to make those shots count. Okay. So that all being said, let's see. Do we have? I'm gonna open it up. Get a lot of people on the Zoom today. I love it. What questions do you guys have? Does anybody have any questions at all? If you have a question, raise your hand. If you're on LinkedIn, drop a question. Going once, going twice. It looks like that's it. Man, all right. Today was a long day. I earned my dinner. Okay. Well, with that being said, let me unshare that. Perfect. Well, everyone, thank you again for your fantastic support and participation today. And just as a reminder, look, if you're a capital sales rep, you got a sales deal, go submit it anonymously to dealrip.com. That's DEALRIP.com. And we will rip your deal apart anonymously. It's going to be amazing. This is going to be the best show you'll ever see on LinkedIn, period. Second to the next show that I release. Okay, we do have one question. I think we got a question. Let's see. Let me come back here. All right, got to bounce. All right, take care, Jay. All right, everybody. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.